looking grimy, looking crazy. But I want to rap a little bit about something I was thinking about last night. I was going to make a community post about it last night, just getting thoughts out of my head. And I ain't no psychologist or anything like that. But thinking about why adults, and in our case, bass players, are so bad at stuff. Bad. When I say bad, I mean I'm using air quotes there, but I got my coffee in my hand. I think one reason is that we're afraid to fail. Somehow, as we grow up, as we age, I believe that we get hung up on, we're good at other stuff, and then an instrument like the bass comes around, or we've been playing bass for a long time. I'll use myself as an example. I really admire things that some bass players do, man, that I wish I could do. Not that's even the wrong word. Not that I wish I could do. I just like what they do. And then sometimes I get in my mind, well, I have to do that. Last night I saw a bass player who I'm actually subbing for next week, and he was amazing. He was amazing. And I could feel that person inside of me, and I think everybody has this person saying, damn, you don't sound as good as that. I think the people, I'm just talking from the hip. I think those of us who can easily dismiss that person and say, but he can't beat me at being me. What's up? Good morning, y'all. He can't beat me at being me. He ain't gonna sound like me. And the band leader was like, man, I'm really excited to play with you again and whatnot. He's excited to play with me because I bring what I bring. When I was teaching little kids, man, when I was a school teacher, teaching music, and I taught, I taught K through 12 music. Little kid, kindergarten through about third grade. They're fearless, man. They don't care about nothing. They'll sing, they'll dance, they'll move their bodies. They don't care. They're not tripping. You know what I mean? They'll do all the little silly dances. And that's where I also really learn, you can't take yourself too seriously when you're a elementary school music teacher. You can't take yourself too seriously. But what I noticed is around 4th and 5th grade, kids start getting real into their peers and what their peers think and what other people think. And then they become, and just in my observation, they become harsher towards each other, more critical of each other. Their respect level is no longer vertical, it is horizontal. And then they're self-conscious. They don't want to be, they don't want to look bad or look silly, or they got to be cool and all that. And that's where I think a lot of us struggle. Anthony Wellington called it adult baggage. There's a great clip of him online somewhere from years and years and years ago, where he was talking about that, and it's very, very true. As adults, we carry this baggage with us, and we're afraid to sound bad. With that, we don't realize that there's a difference between practicing and performing. It's one of the reasons why I've always been like this. I've always been like this from the beginning. There was a season where I didn't do it, but from the beginning of my YouTube journey, I don't really edit out mistakes, because I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. And I used to, to record a play-along video, you'll have to sit there and record the same thing over and over and over again. Do you realize that somebody that posts a 60-second clip on Instagram has spent over an hour recording that 60-second clip, and then they got to edit that clip and make sure that clip is all perfect and all of that. I'm not knocking what they do, but that's what that's what it is. That's what the game is, right? I'm grown. I ain't got time for that. Look, that sounded mean, but you know what I'm saying. I just don't, but it does take time. It does take time. And, let's say I see somebody record a play along of a song, and then I look and I get in my head and I say, well, I got to one up them, and I gotta make sure I have this lick or that lick, Nah, I ain't got to do that. What is my motivation? What is my why for putting that up there? You know what I mean? Views don't pay no bills. Views don't pay bills. Also, for me, I don't know, man. I just have to be me, and I have to be comfortable being me. And as adults, I think we get sidetracked, man, and we think we have to, just come out of the gate banging, I think there's also the reality that, again, for those of you who are new, the demographic, I got Gen X, the bulk of my viewership is Gen X and up, Gen X and boomers. Man, y'all ain't got that kind of time, You don't have the kind of time to be knowing parlor tricks on your instrument. And that's really not even what you want. If you really think about it. Again, like think about learning how to ride a bike. I'm looking at somebody ride their bike right now. Good morning, what's happening? I'm looking at somebody ride their bike right now, and they are making me think about learning how to ride a bike. You remember what kind of head trip that was? How many times did you fall? And you just kept getting back up. You just kept getting back up. And now riding a bike is a thing that you could do. That's why they say it's just like riding a bike. That's why they say it's just like riding a bike. But I think the reason why we get bad, not just at bass, but just at stuff, we also lose the curiosity. We lose the willingness to explore. Turn on, man, I love this phone and I love the internet, and I also hate it, man, because it really is the Matrix, bro. It really and truly is the Matrix. So, hold on a second, y'all. Hey, good morning. Good morning.
What's the play?
The little puppy was a little vicious right there. But yeah, being afraid to sound bad, being afraid to be curious, or forgetting that curiosity is what got us into whatever we are doing, We can spend all day on the internet. How many times have you been on the internet looking for inspiration, and you get sucked down one rabbit hole after another? Boom, 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 boom. And you realize an hour that could have been spent with your favorite record is gone. It's happened to me. Whole day be gone. Be like, damn, what'd I get done? Also, my man, one of the homies from the channel, You know, you want to play some gospel stuff, right? We listen to some of these gospel players, and they are fantastic. They're amazing. They're amazing, these gospel players, right? But you got to understand that gospel, that's not something they do. Let's take Justin Raines, for example, or Sheree Reed. That's not something that them cats do when they feel like doing it. I don't know not one proficient church musician who doesn't spend at least 3 nights a week in the church. 3 nights a week in the church doing that thing. You know what I mean? So, and that's why, like at Groove School, I do things a little bit differently. And I ain't trying to sell you on it. You ain't got to be that P-Dot. I appreciate you being in here, you know. But I give you like behind the scenes, how I learn songs for gigs, how I process information, you know, things like that. Because to me, I have to balance, you know, the quote unquote marketing and shit with my authentic self. And my authentic self, my authentic belief, my real deep down belief is that you got to decide what kind of music you want to play and who do you want to play it with. Then you got to be curious. You have to be curious. And you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic. How much time are you really going to put in to practicing, to shedding? You know, I like to meditate. I like to walk. I like to work out. Those are things that I have found are good for my mental health. But I don't always like to do it. I don't feel like being out here walking right now. I don't feel like it. You know? But I'm doing it because I need the vitamin D. You know, I need to get my body moving. I need to get my day going. Right? And bodies in motion stay in motion. So I have to stay on that. Anyway, you have to be realistic about how much time you are really willing to put into it. And then you have to put it into actual practice. Man, let me tell you something. Don't nobody give a damn if you can call all the notes names on your bass. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. If that's what you want to do, cool. That will not make you a better musician. You need a good understanding of rhythm. You need a good understanding. I asked that I did a poll yesterday about how much theory you need to know to be a confident and competent bass player. The answer is damn near none. The answer is damn near none. It's nice to know. Do you need to know it to be a confident and competent bass player? Not necessarily. How do I know that? Because I know enough confident, competent, proficient, groovy bass players and guitar players and keyboard players. Well, I'm going to say bass players that really don't know shit about theory. Or they know more theory than they think they know. They just don't talk about it. Music theory is a wonderful thing, but it is theory. It's not music facts, it's music theory. And music theory allows you to talk about music and share ideas in a succinct fashion. That's it. That's it. How many sentences do you say a day? How many words do you speak a day? And you don't know jack shit about grammar. I don't. I mean, I know the basics. I know where periods, commas, and exclamation points go. You know, I know nothing about no antecedents and prepositions and all that shit. And nor do I need to. Nor do I need to. Because I'm not an English teacher. I'm not an English scholar. That is not something that I need to know. That's why God made ChatGPT. You feel me? Now, I'm not praising being ignorant. I'm not praising that. I'm just praising. Think about the words that you speak, how much written communication you do on a daily basis. And then compare that to how much English theory you actually know. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Patrick says, with all hobbies, extra life activity, at what point did balance actually balance out for me? You know, that's a hard question to answer because, and I'm gonna tell you why. For me, music has always been the most important thing to me as far as my vocation. And then, you know, education came later in life when I found out that I enjoyed, hey, Nalan, when I found out that I enjoyed teaching and sharing the things that I knew with other people. So that was a different thing. I also am really into tech. I'm a bit of a nerd on that. I'm really into the AI stuff. I vibe coded several apps. I just made another one. If you guys want to check it out, it's a little bit buggy right now. And I need to do some work on it. But it's called groove-journal.com. And what it is a practice journal that's got some stuff in it. Right now, it's a little bit buggy and I need to fix some things today, but I'm going to be talking about that. Anyway, balance. I'm one of the quote unquote lucky ones. And I don't know if it's lucky or not. I'm lucky in that I discovered passions early in my life, and I made some very conscious. Hey, Loretta. I made some very conscious decisions early in my life that were sacrifices, that were big sacrifices. For instance, I don't have any children, purposely don't have any children. When I got married, you know, that didn't work out, but probably, I think part of the appeal of that relationship was that she also didn't want any children. So there was no pressure of ticking clocks and anything like that. Oh shit. Uh-oh. You all right? Did you hit it?
No, but I thought that was my cat.
Oh shit. You good? All right. You want to move out the road? You good? Will you need anything?
Yeah, I'm just gonna get him.
All right. Hey kids, why don't y'all turn y'all heads? That's a hard thing to look at. Turn your head. Don't go to school with that on your mind. Sorry about that, guys. That's a tough one. That's a tough one right there. Young lady, there's a dead cat in the road, and there's also a bunch of little school kids waiting for the bus. So they sitting out there, and they seeing that, man. It's hardcore. Oh, hey, Ryan. So yeah, so Ryan, to that, man, you know, let me harken back to something that I was saying before. I was talking about being a YouTuber. Let's talk about being a so-called YouTuber, right? Do you know that there is crisis of confidence that happens when you are putting yourself on the internet all the time? Listen, like right now, man, I look like shit, you know? I don't have no team or anything like that. But do you know how you gotta like look and say, God bless Scott, God bless Yannick, and all of those cats. You know, I think Yannick is mainly a solo guy, but you know, Scott has built something magnificent. You know, he got a team. He got a big team, full-time people, full-time. Man, I can't stop what I'm doing to watch what that man is doing, or to you know, I gotta be me. I have to find my own lane in this thing. You know, just like playing the bass. Where's my lane? Where's my lane? I've said it before, you know, I don't play straight ahead jazz. You know, could I? Sure. But I don't. Like, I'm not the guy that people call to play straight ahead jazz gigs, because that's not who I am. And they know it, and I know it. And at this point, at this stage of my game, I'm not gonna sit there and shed that. I'm not gonna shed that. Unless there was an actual purpose of something that I was trying to get inside of, I would look for a specific thing. I would identify a specific thing that I was trying to get, and then I would go for that. But I'm not gonna just shed like that. You know what I mean? Now, I will say that walking bass lines are probably one, if you really want to understand the ins and outs of your neck, few things do that like walking bass lines. Matter of fact, I don't know if anything does it like walking bass lines. But what's your lane? What lane do you want to be in? What type of music do you want to play, and who do you want to play it with? You know, Ryan says rock bass runs through my veins. What's your struggle? Let me know your struggle before I hop off, because this man has to get a shower, like for real, for real. Hold on, man. Did that dude go pick that cat up off the ground with his bare hands? He sure did. Oh, man. Bro, that's sad. Yo, this dude. Oh, man, that's sad, bro. So the girl that was driving in her car, she thought it was her cat and she was going to pick it up. But the guy walked out, and I guess that was his cat. And he walked out with the cat, and he walking down the street with the cat in his hand. The cat just got hit by a car. Man, that's hardcore. That's sad, bro. So Ryan says, a rock bass runs through my veins. My struggle is I want to play gospel. That doesn't sound like a struggle to me. That doesn't sound like a struggle to me. I'm going to tell you why. Because all music is one music if you really think about it, right? So if there's an F major 7 in rock music, there's an F major 7 in jazz. I mean, in gospel, right? And how much gospel are you listening to? Who are you listening to? And when you listen, are you listening without the bass in your hand? Are you listening to just listen? And then when you actively listen, what are you hearing? What are you understanding? What rhythms are you hearing? What tempos are you hearing? What keys are gospel songs typically played in? Let me take this to the funk analogy. Funk music, especially like 70s funk, a lot of that stuff is in the key of E. So, man, when I say the key of E, I really mean the key of E minor. So, you know what keys you need to know for that? You need to know the key of G major, because G major is the relative major of E minor. Bam, got those two. So you have G, Ionian, E, Aeolian, G major, E minor. But then sometimes those funk tunes be in E Dorian. Oh, Dorian, theory talk. All right, well, if I say Dorian, I'm only meaning the second note of a scale. What note comes before, or what letter comes before E? D. You guessed it. So then you might want to know the key of D major. You feel me? And then when you get into that, then you're like, well, what is the relative minor of D? Oh shit, it's F sharp minor. That's where the curiosity, and then you start looking, you start mapping those things out, and you got shapes and shit. You start mapping those things out. Then you know, as you're listening, there's phrases and licks and language. And when I say phrases, I mean like phrases like words. You dig? Like words. If in New Orleans, you know, people say, what's happening? That's a very New Orleans thing to say. But they're not gonna say that in St. Louis. So you start understanding context. But it's how you're listening. Are you passively listening? Are you actively listening? Right? Ryan says, my father had all those Motown type records and I'm currently not listening and surrounding myself around gospel. Yeah, sometimes you got to go. I'll give an example. My buddy Cam Parrish out in the Bay Area. When I first met him, he was newly in the country from Scotland. And he was a rock guy, but he was enamored with neo soul, enamored with it. And we met on a gig in San Francisco. And we talked for about 45 minutes about Michelle and Deggiocello. But this is a guy, and this is you know, the internet wasn't really popping, right? But this guy went and dug into the neo soul shits. He dug into the neo soul records, and now he's that cat. You know what I mean? He's one of them cats that's got that in his bag. He started playing in church and all that. And he's still a rocker at heart. You know, you talk about Motown. You know, I've like had some real intense conversations with some bass player about I'm not into Jocko. I'm not into Jocko, and it's not a require. It's like saying because I'm black, I gotta love fried chicken. I enjoy fried chicken, but you understand what I'm saying. You know, I don't have to be into Jocko because I'm a bass player. That's not my bag. I ain't into that. I can appreciate Jocko for his talents and his ingenuity, his genius, and all of that stuff. But for me, the thing that made me want to play bass wasn't that. I didn't start out wanting to play the bass as a lead instrument or as a melodic instrument. You know. Now that that has changed somewhat since I've evolved and gotten older and all of that. But you know. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to be giving out my location and shit. You know what I mean? Don't nobody ever come look for me. You will get surprised. Anyway, that's my ramble for the day. I got to get the day started. But I these morning thoughts, man, I be needing to get them out of my head. Check out groove-journal.com. Like I said, it's a little bit wonky right now. It's a little bit wonky at the moment. There are some bugs that I'm getting out. But check it out. Just, let me know. Send me a message or something like that. Let me know if it's up or if it's working or blah, 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 blah. Listen, Patrick says walking bass is what I want to work on, but a part of me wanted to be on a on upright bass. At the moment, I'm on a lefty 5-string learning slap also. So depending on what how old you are, what your opportunities are, what your aspirations are, whatever, you may need to put some of those things in a box. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. I didn't go back to college. I didn't go to college until I was 35. I started playing upright at 35. I earned my degree playing upright, and I played mostly classical and orchestral music. Very mediocre upright player, but I did play upright bass. About 4 or 5 years, I played it a lot. But during that time, it was my primary focus. Why was it my primary focus? Well, it was my main instrument, and it was my, it was the instrument that I was getting my degree on. And I needed to, I had already played electric bass. So the skills that I had built up over time on electric bass didn't go anywhere. And I was still gigging on electric bass as well. But I had to compartmentalize and say, I got recitals, I got concerts and shit like that. So I had to do that. You dig? So, you got to be realistic about the time that you have. And is the juice worth the squeeze? Whatever it is the juice worth the squeeze? All right? It ain't rocket science. It's pocket science.